The Last Bohemian Wizard, in honor of novelist Jerry Kamstra. Ghostly visitors save a place at the visionary table where medicine does not speak. The poltergeists creak through sable dimensions to arrive and elude hospital elements, hidden world harbingers of ingenuity peak. Joyce raises his glass in Irish toast to Kamstra, seeking revelry, ushering him into a secret society of next world writer-travelers. Miller, with approving nod, reads tattooed impression of Tropic of Cancer aloud. Thoreau calls for the sun, pulls up the blinds, requests Kamstra's bed be moved to the sands of Big Sur. Nin rakes her tongue inside her cheek, reveals Pussy Willow, lifts her brow to the headband outlaw of weed and word, bohemian attraction. Fitzgerald, bow-tied, brings a 5-piece suit, a gift for a lifetime of generosity to all other authors who've crossed the Frisco Kid's path, acknowledging sacrifice of creative self. Dickinson wires a cosmic poem. Fickle food named fame, you say, a near-death experience. Farm the virgin thigh of immortality. Oh, the ecstasy. Envelops perseverance flame. Unincinerated fascicles of literary passion await, as lullaby lion shall soon awake. Dionysian arrival on porch of eternal light. Belonging to page-turning temptresses in full delight, the urn will burn and fuel all dreamers' flights. As nirvana promotes, furthers, with sturdy heart's bell, earning undivided reflection, wherein radiant insight dwells. Seekers of pastures, clandestine leaves of language, following his footsteps in the wind. Bukowski rolls around the hospital floor, Bacchus laughter box, amused by all the discovered aphorism spells, dancing above your bed. Concedes, that's right, you've got it, kid, whether you want it or not. Hemingway picks Buke up and hands him a beer, says there's no fighting it, the feeling so true and deep that you still feel it on the bloody floor tiles, catching the resounding poundings of yesteryears and the sounding cymbals of future comings. Stein turns the air on, points out there's too much testosterone in the room and not enough talk of art, she says. Sensitive art, compassionate and harsh at the same time, calling for immediate teleportation to Paris, where such is the reality in the flesh and AD. Algren chimes in, you're the shaker of the next world, its new gateways, broken fences, narrow bridges, gushing women, fabled courses, all revisited inside the vast womb of doubt, the forgotten meaning connecting life after life after life, so don't embrace a morsel of truth, swallowed now or ever, nevermore. Shake that sensation. Alan Paton concludes, mend and be mended, build and be built, the mindful man that sees beyond. It's a poem about my grandfather, Big Ray Yaryan. Big Ray. I remember the shrewd command of Big Ray's voice, resonating through trees of natural bridges, crumbling down by seaside crashings upon grains of sand standings, pop quiz of time. The large wrinkled man, saddened truck with belly of Buddha, aching of age, pressing his eyes outward toward the primitive, powerless world that offers us ocean. High on paved hilltop, Big Ray called for the relatively ageless seaside entity below. 9 before a quick 20 tacked on, or 29 pushing 30 minus 2 decades gone by and looking back to fill in the story never heard by the childhood figure, sitting, playing near a dead stump with roots. 100 yards from tide pool wanderings between toy thought digressions of what is seen on man-made screens. Cobra Command burrowed in the shrapnel bark, awaiting inevitable smashing of evil without knowing the good. The unseasoned practitioner of misunderstandings of human preoccupation with a choice between heaven or hell. Rewind way back, 1937, roving toward the residue of the Old West with wife, hitching highways, Dark desolation. Stake making the way to new rural rustic plains. Big Ray, motorcycle oracle, found work in a livelihood leading to the foundation of a speed shop on San Fernando Road, its seemingly forgotten planet Crossroads, awaiting a society to colonize. The ghostwriters are born, a dozen or so, mostly sojourners, grown into rough and tumble beat-down world of things that make us move, hustle round, transporting shift from kickstart boot to groove. Hell-bent heroes, ready to meet their maker, rolling toward the virtually uninhabited land, all led by Big Ray with cosmic waves and tall-tale larger-than-life charisma, rolling up sleeves, kicking out smoke, direct from the dynamite skull, the technician of toughness, American archetype of grandstand racing greatness, chieftain of cheating death, reserving a table for fellow immortals at the Forbidden Palace, their bones exploding upon scaffolding skies, climbing, traipsing currents to the kingdom of motorcycles with a wild overburst of joy.
I flew low over Gratiot Road. The weeds believed me, and the nesting birds. The worms were delighted as wrens. Those are 2 lines from Theodore Retke's poem, A Field of Light. I flew low over Gratiot Road. For the dew on the lilacs, I let one foot, the other, dip down above the roofs of the houses of my childhood. Let my light body graze the blossoming tops of the chestnut trees, candelabras all the way to the cemetery, and there slip into the tunnel we go to, the scent of hyacinths, the wet green fur sprouting from the stones. Old South School. This is out of a memory. I actually walked this for this poem. Old South School, the sidewalk my feet once knew in every weather, still heads straight to the corner of Martin's drugstore, still turns north on Elm, where the white-belted boys on safety patrol held their arms out for us, past the red and white pole at Mickey's, King of Crew Cuts, and stops at the little flight of steps, plinth of chipped concrete by the kindergarten door, locked. It's summer and all the windows now stuccoed muddy brown, so even when the kids are at their desks, they can't see out. I want my yellow slicker, my locker by the art room stairs, where once in a morning of thunder, from the stairwell's high window, dark clouds blew away, and just in time for walking home, the sun poured down. A crow now, flapping and cawing high above the west steps, and there on top of the entrance columns, stone claws clinging to the eaves, tiny gargoyles grinning. I walked back and forth from kindergarten to 9th grade to that school. Saturdays, a whiff of eggs and bacon, my red plaid shirt with snaps, blue jeans that zip up the side. I'm running downstairs, my mother's laughing, still in her apron, on her tiptoes for the picnic basket. My father's calling from the basement stairs, already pulling his high tops on. My brothers scrambling in the hall closet for theirs. I grab my toast, strawberry jam. We're going. We're on the running board into the velvety back of the old blue Chrysler, past the putting greens, the cemetery, over the Tippawasee on its bumpy bridge, to the straight gravel road by fields and woods, and on to the turn, at last, the new green sign to our farm. Split rail fences, first apple trees, past Shad and Mary's paint-peeled shack, up the little hill by the root cellar. Here's the farm bell on its post, the yellow brick house, the old red barns, the silvery silo, 40 acres, pine woods beyond, the sweet dry smell of hay, the steamy stench of manure, and now for us, the white-plumed whinnies of horses. Those last two were from my first book, Sweetwater, Saltwater, and the rest will be back in with Time and Peonies. Mary in the basement. Monday morning, down went the sheets, towels, all the shirts in the house. Same old tune, muttering up the clothes chute. You were sorting coloreds and whites. No pockets turned out. And what about that old stain? Ironing. Each corner, tuck, and pleat, you knew. All those blouses, frilly dresses. Too fancy, you said. Who you think you are, Miss Muffet? Hot days, it was cool down there. Can't walk so good, you said. Clothes don't fit. Sometimes you smoked, and once an eye was bruised. We found a bottle in the chute. After that, my mother said you had to leave. How did you live out there in that farm shack, garden patch, black-eyed peas and goat, one lonely son, and Shad turning you out for some young thing? Come back. Let all your grumbling shake that basement room till up the stairs you come bursting into the kitchen to speak. To rise. I begin to sing of rich-haired Demeter. It's a line from Homer. Each loaf plumped, the edges tucked under as my mother's fingers taught. I lie in sunlight on the floor and look up. Here all this time, in the redwood ceiling's grain, beaked nose, hair pulled back, a silhouette as in a frieze. She stands facing east, long-limbed, reaching up her arms, as if to begin her ancient devotions. She's taken a breath. The warm bread rises. My task, to push away, and yet feel the pull, like Persephone. How else, after long wandering, to settle in my own house, with these mounds of wheat, poppy seeds, honey and oil, a little salt, the mystery of yeast.
The title is My Redwood Brother. Stopped in traffic, I see you out my car window. I can see your years. My ancestors are gone now, and your mother cut down long ago. Your twin trunks grow from your mother's heart. You stand majestically reaching up above the damp fog, but your feet are smothered by roadway, sidewalk, and paved bike lanes. No nourishment seeps to your throat, only inches of soil from your roots to drink. Only a few feet away is constant cigarette smoke and idling exhaust pipes that blacken your bark. Sadness overwhelms me, tears fill my eyes. What can I do? How can I undo man's straight lines, man's blindness? Carbon moisture clogs your veins, bad air becomes the air you breathe. Thinning copper leaves instead of lush dark green limbs. I weep for you, for our children, and I sob for our planet. I call out your ancient Ohlone name and whisper my sorrow. I get out and tightly wrap my arms around you. Can you feel my beating heart? I want you to hear my sadness, my regret, and to know my love, my Redwood Brother. This poem is titled The Two-Legged Ones. Follow me to the dolphin tank. Look, what do you think they're thinking about? You're 6 now. It's time you start thinking about this stuff. Do you think they want to learn to walk and join us? They're staring at us. Do you think they recognize us from somewhere? Maybe all people look the same. One head, 2 legs, and 2 arms. I don't know if they can see color. You need to think about these things now. How fast can a dolphin swim? What word do they use for water? How many clicks? What order? Do they repeat themselves? They're watching us like they can read lips. They use their radar to know how far they are from the glass. They're not hungry because they're fed and their bellies are full. At this time of day, they just watch The two-legged ones walk past. What do you think they're thinking about? Do you think they're wondering what we taste like? You're 6 now. It's time to start thinking about this stuff. Start asking questions. Start asking yourself questions. I'd like to read a poem from my book titled, I Want to Hold Your Hand. This poem is titled Halloween. Trying to remember why I don't like Halloween. Maybe it was the hand-sewn costumes my mother enjoyed dressing us in. Dressing me, Bobby, and Butch as clowns, complete with heavy makeup, which she seemed to enjoy a bit too much. Then came the paper costumes that were hokey. I tripped over my paper costume, falling down, and dropped my candy all over the street. The other kids, driven by more sugar, zeroed in on my best. The 2 fudge brownies I really wanted were gone. Behind masks, if they didn't talk, you didn't know who was around you. My paper costume was totaled, and I was 5 blocks from my house in my underwear. It was damn cold as the wet fog of the bay swallowed Telegraph Hill. Trying to remember why I don't like Halloween. I'd like to read another from this book. It's titled, It's Friday. We set the alarm for 4 a.m., woke up, dropped acid, and went back to sleep. Waking 3 hours later, horny and tripping, making love in slow motion, bodies quivering and tingling to every touch. We discovered a new dimension, a new time zone. All our senses firing at optimum, so high there's muffled laughter. Roll out of bed, a quick shower, a light breakfast, and it's off to the office, smiling all day with a slight buzz on. It's Friday. Groundhog Day. It was a wonderful spring day, little wind, and the sun was warm. San Francisco was awakening to the outdoors. The park was lush with damp grass and puddles. Suddenly, a bone-chilling wind stinging like shards of glass comes off the bay, sprinting up the hill, over the top and through the park, a salty, cold ocean of Neptune's breath. The cypress and pine trees were cheering and applauding. Then it was gone. The locals had their favorite spots, a view of downtown, the beach, or the wharf. I pushed you on the swing, your laugh, your smell. I wanted you forever. We had planned to get married on Groundhog Day, but something came up. Why not today? It's Valentine's Day. Let's get married. Okay, fine. On our way to City Hall with the top down, I picked up a bouquet of spring flowers on poke for my bride. It was like a Perry Mason courtroom with a pretty girl typing beyond the low railing. The judge was in chambers. There were other couples waiting along with friends and families. They were eyeing her flowers. They were begging. It was embarrassing. I only mentioned twice that the pretty girl beyond the low railing looked familiar. My bride went ballistic. Did you sleep with her too? I don't remember. I gathered up the flowers, calmed her down, and later, the pretty girl, my cousin, was our witness. This is titled, Goodbye. I want to travel. I want to travel to another planet. I give up on this one. 2,000 years of worshiping idols, 2,000 years of allowing leaders to perpetuate violence, brutal killings of humans killing humans, 2,000 years of lying, manipulating, and cheating. I'm leaving for another planet in another solar system. I want to be as far away from here as I can get. I'm ashamed we're unable to feed our own inhabitants. We never evolved. We destroyed our world. I want off. I can't take this media control, this theater of politics, this constant paranoia. I'm going to another planet, far, far away, to a mature society where they know the value of one life to live. I want to be as far away from here as I can get. This is my favorite poem. It's titled Kids Ruled. In the mid-50s in North Beach, Washington Square Park belonged to everybody. Green wooden benches and green grass. It belonged to the gays on their corner of Stockton and Filbert, with their white spider monkey and Siamese cats on a leash, joking, laughing, and touching. The monkey laughing too, shelling peanuts. It was trippy watching it climb up and down their bodies. They wore tight blue Levi's with wide cuffs and tight white t-shirts. They were a happy bunch, and skinny. It belonged to the old Sicilian women on their corner of Stockton and Union, dressed in black under the shade trees, talking quietly, saying more with their looks, their hands busy praying with rosary beads or knitting or both. The topics were babies, the children playing, family, the old country, the church, and food. If you didn't speak Sicilian, you missed the nuance. They loved to squeeze the children's cheeks using both hands, their dancing black eyes searching deep into their young souls. It belonged to the young Italian women, bunched together on their benches on Union in the sun, mostly mothers, usually pregnant, speaking English, a parking lot of baby buggies and strollers. Their paths weren't hip, they were the bystanders, talking about babies, husbands, boyfriends, movies, and food, while they watched their children play in the park. They collected all the popular records and liked to dance, wearing summer dresses or skirts with matching blouses, with silk scarves tied around their necks. The scarves smelled like hairspray and perfume. They were the good girls. It belonged to the old Sicilian men wearing their fedoras and wide ties on their corner of Union and Columbus, their homemade Dago red hidden nearby. Nanu would call his grandsons over, interrupting their play, to meet new arrival from home. He would introduce himself, name his village, and kiss each young face through a thick fog of Dago red. The boys would kiss the stranger. If you were related, that's the way it was. The old men talked about Sicily, babies, family, fishing, and food. They were careful what they talked about. Their wives across the park were lip readers or psychic or both. It belonged to the beatniks, lying on the grass in front of St. Peter's and Paul's. They read books out loud and sometimes looked upset. They were poor with only one cigarette to pass around. When they laughed, they were hysterical, and it went on forever. They brought their lunch to the park, formed a circle, and had a picnic. French bread, cheese, bottled beers, and books spread out on a blanket, sharing that one cigarette. Their chicks were hot, wearing tight skirts and tight sweaters, in primary colors with matching silk scarves around their necks, and no panties. They wore bright red lipstick, smoked cigarettes in public, and wore cool, pointed shades. On every sunny day, the park really belonged to a half a dozen young Italian boys ages 7 to 10. They mingled with everybody. They fed the monkey peanuts, they had all the old women squeeze their cheeks, they knew all the mothers, aunts, and cousins, and the old men who loved every one of them. They teased the beatniks and made them laugh. Each person in the park might be talking, arguing, laughing, reading, resting, or thinking, but all were aware of the young boys, running, playing army, playing tag, or playing catch. Young Jimmy discovered the chicks wore no panties. He was born club-footed and tripped on the grass when he ran fast. He fell near the chicks one day, looked up, and saw his first pussy. The boys called a meeting at the swings. They had a plan. They would move near the beatniks, throwing the football. Each boy would make a diving catch and lick up a skirt. The chicks caught on after the fourth diving catch. Bobby was caught adjusting his eyeglasses, so Chelsea and Bebo had to wait a week. Fascism. Want some? It begins with a moral and financial breakdown, when the old order seems to no longer work, and waves of national resentment are running high, threatened by economic and social disorder. The current government seems unable to solve the country's problems. One party monopolizes power through its police, eliminating all other parties, using considerable violence in the process. This new style of party is headed by a leader who has virtually unlimited power, is adulated by his followers, and the focus of a quasi-religious cult. The party's doctrine becomes an obligatory article of faith for not only its members, but all citizens, constantly projected by a powerful propaganda machine. In the end, democracies are defeated. Not enough Democrats were willing to defend it. It's titled Bombs. Safa was a 6-year-old girl of a Pakistan village near Karachi who was blown to pieces by a bomb. Safa liked to play with her dolls, and she just learned to ride her bike. Her sister Asia lost her legs in the blast. Asia was a dancer of traditional dance and was engaged to be married. Safa was Daddy's little girl. He took her everywhere and spoiled her with ice cream and cakes. Salma was a 9-year-old girl of an Afghanistan village near Kandahar. She was a gifted art student, following quickly ahead of her class, moving quickly ahead of her classmates and becoming a passionate painter. She and her 3 sisters were killed by the bomb. Ishtar was an 11-year-old girl in a Syrian village near Aleppo. Ishtar's parents were killed by a bomb. The oldest of 3 children, she cared for her siblings while working at a paper factory. Ishtar was teaching the children of her village to read. Ali was a 7-year-old boy of an Iraqi village near Basra. Ali liked to play with his puppy and all the other animals in the neighborhood. He was always bringing home another animal and pleading with his parents to let him keep it. Ali had the most beautiful big brown eyes. Amisi was a 3-year-old girl of an Egyptian village near Alexandria. Amisi was sleeping when the bomb crashed through the roof of her bedroom, destroying the entire house. Her parents were injured but will survive. Amisi was their only child of the young parents, their true love, their whole world. Caddy was a 10-year-old boy of a Libyan village near Tripoli. Caddy loved looking at the stars with his father. His father taught his son their names. Caddy wanted to be a scientist and travel to space someday. He was the only kid in the neighborhood with a Star Trek poster in his room. Afram was a 10-year-old boy of a small Israeli village near Nazareth. Afram was now old enough to join his soccer league and play with his older brothers. His brothers had chipped in and bought him new soccer cleats. Afram's father was coaching him in the evening after work, as he had coached his other sons. Imad was a 7-year-old boy of a Palestinian village near Berlin. Early each morning, Imad followed his father out the door, always a few steps behind. His father was a bricklayer and would search for work here and there. Imad would mix the mortar for his father without speaking. He knew the procedure and stayed out of his way, as his father worked the bricks into place. Sometimes they would stop on their way home, rest under a shade tree, and eat a piece of fruit. Martin was an 8-year-old boy of an American city, Boston. He was a pitcher on the Rangers Little League baseball team. Martin's gap-toothed smile was the first thing people saw, making them smile too. A recent image of Martin was of him holding his handwritten sign that read, "No more hurting people. Peace. Bombs."
I'm beating up the street tonight. I slept through the natural light, but I'll do it if it feels alright. Alright, alright. Oh!